request our Vice President Sri A.B. Panigrahi to come to the dais. Our other Vice President Sri S.K. Mahanti to please come to the stage. May I request Mr. Roth to hand over the bouquet to our speaker and also to our president. Thank you, Mr. Roth. May I request our Vice President Sri A.B. Panigrahi to welcome the speaker.
Good evening, everybody. Our dearest speaker is today a very eminent professor from Pennsylvania University, Professor Raja V. Ramani, and he has flown all the way from United States of America, and within his Indian program, he has able to make some time for giving a lecture here. So we welcome you, sir, and I request everybody to give a round of applause for his presence here. Our president.
Recording in progress.
Our president, he has taken all the pains to coordinate with Professor Ramani to make sure that he comes in time and has a very good reunion with his friends. So I welcome to Kuntia Sahab, our president. The members who are present here, senior members and executive council members, I heartily welcome to all of you. And also nowadays, apart from the person who was physically present, the bigger gathering is perhaps in the digital media, and I welcome all the members who are, I see eminent Professor Sao is also there, others are also there, Mr. Wadwan is also there. So we welcome one and everybody who is also on the digital platform for the, I'll just impress upon something on which Professor Ramani is going to give a talk. Critical minerals, as all of you must be knowing, are essential for economic development, technological advancement and national security, but vulnerable to the supply chain. This is very important, supply chain, supply risk. They are used in industries like renewable energy, electric vehicles, electronics and defense. Critical minerals like lithium, cobalt and rare earth minerals are crucial for emerging technologies, making them vital for economic growth. The government has notified 30 minerals as critical minerals, lithium, cobalt, rare earth, etc., etc. Looking at the long-term importance, a national critical mineral mission has been launched in the year 2025 in the month of January. The mission aims at security to supply the chain by enhancing the products, domestic products, promoting recycling and acquiring mineral assets abroad. The outlay of this mission is 24,300 crores for a period of 7 years. The objective is to enhance the domestic exploration, reducing import dependence, developing processing and recycling capabilities. With this background, and I think Professor Ramani is an expert in these critical minerals and how it will play an important role in the economy of the country. So we'll be listening to him. A hearty welcome to you once again, sir, and for especially thank you for coming all the way from the United States of America. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Pandey. May I now request SGAT to introduce the speaker.
Good evening to all of you. It's really great pleasure to introduce a person like Professor Ramani, Raja V. Ramani, and it's really a matter of great pride on my behalf, on my part. Dr. Ramani is an Emeritus Professor of Mining and Geo-Environmental Engineering and Emeritus George H. Junior and Deike Chair in Mining Engineering at the Pennsylvania State University, Penn State, USA. His current activities include teaching, research, consulting, and service to the worldwide mineral industry. Born in Madras, India, Ramani was educated in Calcutta public schools and the Indian School of Mines, Dhanbad, where he received his AISM diploma in mining engineering with first-class honors in 1962. He joined Bengal Coal Company and worked his way to first-class mines manager in 1965 before immigrating to the United States and earning his MS and PhD in 1968 and 1970 respectively from Penn State. He obtained his professional engineer's license in 1971 from the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Professor Ramani's experience includes working 6 years in underground coal mines, teaching undergraduate, graduate, and continuing education courses, conducting research on flow of air, gas, and dust through mine openings, innovative mining methods, ore reserve estimation, operations research and management systems applications in mining, management of health, safety, productivity, and costs of mining entities, environmental monitoring, mined land reclamation and environmental planning, and land use planning, and heading Penn State's Department of Mineral Engineering from 1987 to 1998, and its Mineral Engineering Management section from 1974 to 2001. Professor Ramani was the co-director of 3 research centers, such as the Generic Mineral Technology Center on Respirable Dust, the National Mined Land Research Center, and the Standard Oil Center of Excellence in Longwall Mining. He was also the director of the Penn State Miner Training Program. He has published over 200 research papers, co-authored an authoritative text on mine ventilation, contributed to 25 books, handbooks, and encyclopedias, and edited the proceedings of 15 national and international symposiums. Professor has served on several expert panels for US and state government agencies and as consultant to national and international agencies and mining companies worldwide on health, safety, productivity, and environmental issues. He is the life member of Phi Kappa Phi American Society for Reclamation Sciences and MGMI India. He was elected President of the Society for Mining, Metallurgy and Exploration, President of the Society's Foundation, and Chairman of the International Council for the Application of Computers in Mineral Industry. His contributions to mineral engineering have been widely acknowledged for their significance with several prestigious awards from academia and technical and professional societies in the US and abroad for teaching, research, and service. Among his awards are Distinguished Alumni Award of ISM, SME Distinguished Member, Upcom Distinguished Achievement Award, Honorary DSc from ISM 1997, US National Academy of Engineering Member, AIME Honorary Member, Distinguished Fulbright Nehru Chair in 2014-15, National Mining Hall of Fame inductee in the year 2021, and Distinguished Alumni Award of Penn State in 2022. Professor Ramani and his wife Geeta are lifetime members of the Penn State Alumni Association and reside in the State College, Pennsylvania. They have two sons, Deepak and Gautam. With this brief introduction of an outstanding mining engineer of international repute, it's my proud privilege to invite you, sir, to start your presentation. But before that happens, I would request all the distinguished participants to send their questions, if any, in the chat box only, which will be later answered by Professor Ramani during question and answer session, which is going to be coordinated by Mr. Ramanath Praharaj, another mining engineer of stature and a senior executive council member of SGAT. Now, it's my proud privilege to request Professor Ramani to kindly come forward to make presentation.
Present the lecture, okay. You have turned the mic on? Okay, very good. Thank you very much. Well, that was a very faithful execution of a job well done. I had given him those prepared notes and he read it very well. He had some questions which I clarified just before the session. So if you believe half of it, you are just too kind. I thank the Society of Geoscientists and Applied Technologists, Bhubaneswar, for this kind invitation to address the audience. It's the marvels of modern technology that you have probably a much larger audience who are connected by wire listening to me today, and I thank them as well. This is too nice a day to sit indoors and listen to talk about critical minerals and their national importance. I also thank Kuntia Saab. Ganesham was my classmate at Indian School of Mines. We shared 4 years together, and after that, I left for India. I left for coal mines, and shortly thereafter, I left for United States. Therefore, our paths crossed very rarely. He went into steel industry, and I continued to stay in academia, so we never met. Till about 15 years ago, when I wanted to make a pilgrimage to Puri, and I called him, and he arranged a wonderful trip for me. I'm very happy to be back again here. Well, I wanted to talk about critical minerals today and national planning, because that's what I was told. It's a very important topic. Mr. Kuntia also wanted me to talk about Vikshit Bharat 2047 and the role of critical minerals. I said two things. Critical minerals, I don't know a hell of a lot. I don't know anything about Vikshit Bharat 2047. If you want me still to talk about it, I can, but I prefer to talk about minerals national planning and talk a little bit about critical minerals on national planning. Therefore, I will confine myself to the subject of the roots of national planning. What is at the bottom of national planning, and how minerals become very important to national planning, and how critical minerals today have become so important, okay? Bear with me, you might have read a lot, and therefore you may not learn anything new from me. But that's life. We do a lot of things where we don't learn anything new. But even if you learn something, that's good. Thank you very much again for taking your time and coming here. Two needs of all human beings are, in order, food and energy. For humans, I will say, you should add the word clean in the front. Clean food and clean energy. We can also add, we want them in adequate and reliable supply. So adequate and reliable clean energy and clean food are critical elements for a good human life in this world. So, simply put, if these are not available, eventually the population will perish. You can see in times of war, the two things that are affected are food and energy. Most of it is diverted to the war effort, and what you have is scarcity of both energy and food, and eventually this scarcity can be very serious. We are seeing it in Sudan now, we are seeing it in Gaza now. People are dying. People don't realize that this can happen over the long run very slowly if food and energy are not adequate and available all the time. Okay. From a cultural and societal point of view, the major role of government then is to provide food and energy, ensure that there is a safe, secure, reliable, resilient supply of food and energy, along with ensuring that the population is protected from war, either domestic or international. Because once you get into a domestic or international war among the people, then the supply of both is threatened. So looking at government, if population have got to be happy, you have to have a good defense against threats from outside and threats from inside, so that there is no war, and there is adequate supply of food and energy. So agriculture and mining sectors are the two sectors that really produce. Can I have my specs there, please? Thank you. Somewhere along the line you get very old and you can't see very well either. So you can see without this, all of a sudden I felt I can't see my own notes. So agriculture and mining sectors are the major sources of food and energy. You know, there are all kinds of materials being produced and people talk about how these materials are important. But for national wealth, adding wealth that never existed before, that is wealth growth. Growth of wealth is adding wealth that never existed before. Only two industries do that. Agricultural industry grows crops, mineral industry mines minerals, some of which produce energy. As such, these are the two fundamental sectors that contribute to the primary minerals or primary sources of wealth of a nation. All other products that you have are the products of processing these minerals, manufacturing products from these minerals, and using these minerals and food to produce everything else. So manufacturing and service sectors all depend upon these two sectors. And the importance of these two sectors have been recognized from a long time ago. In fact, if you go to take a look at how these ages of human progress have been catalogued, we talk about Stone Age, we talk about Bronze Age, Iron Age, we talked about the Nuclear Age. These are all materials that were mined, signifying the importance of the mineral industry. Very important to remember, Iron Age ceased about 4,000 years ago, but demand for iron never decreased because we found increased and better uses for stone than what the prehistoric man had. He had very little demand for stone. just to kill each other with stone arrows or throwing stone at each other. We still do that too. On the other hand, stone has become the most important element of our infrastructure. Roads, buildings, talk about anything you want to do. You want to access the place first. Any structure you want to put up, lot of stone, sand, cement and other materials are required. All of a sudden, stone demand has increased all over the world. Copper demand is going to increase. If you want to increase electricity, you need more copper. These demands will continue to increase even if you find new materials that have similar properties. We found aluminum, but copper demand has not gone down. Demand for aluminum increased. Okay? As such, what I want to point out is, whatever we are mining today, the demand for these will continue to increase. What is common between agricultural industry and mining industry? What is common? It is the land. Agricultural industry uses land. Mining industry uses land. So we are two industries that use land, very important industry, but in a different way. Agricultural industry uses land in a multiple use manner. It will use the land for multiple crops during a year. And it will use that land for same crops year after year after year. So it is not only multiple use, but repeated use of the land. Take a look at mining industry. Once the deposit is mined, that use of land for mining is not possible anymore because we have depleted the deposit. Depletion is a characteristic of mining industry, a deposit. Once depleted, we have to find a new deposit somewhere. It's a permanent use of the land. In some cases, it's not only a permanent use, we completely change the characteristic of the land form, the chemical makeup of the land, the permeability, porosity, the water retention capacity of the land. All these things makes mining a land use function which really creates new conditions, most often not necessarily desirable condition. And land is a very, very fundamental and unique resource. The amount of habitable land is very limited. Population is growing and they have this repeated multiple use of land as necessary land. If you take away that use forever, there is overcrowding of people on land. Some people's livelihood, if it is an agricultural land, is lost and lost forever. These are the reasons why gradual resistance to mining became ban on mining, which is a very unwise thing to do because mining adds to the primary wealth of nations. Mining engineers have not been able to make this case at all because they have left so many derelict lands all over the world that mining industry is not looked upon favorably almost in all countries of the world. Okay? So, as population grows, demand for land would continue to grow. And my fear is the habitable land in amount and quality will decrease. New lands are not going to be formed at all. It's very difficult. Under the circumstances, land use is extremely important, and land as one of the primary resources we have to protect. As one primary industry, I will say, if you have no plans to reclaim the land or no good plans for lands to be recovered, then we should not mine at all. Don't start mining if you don't have a good plan to recover the land for productive use. If not now, at least sometime in the future. That is why mind closure has become so important. Somebody said, if you can't close the mind properly, safely, then don't even plan to open a mind. Okay. Let's take a look at the drivers of change. Looking at the drivers of change and cause of worldwide concern. One is the human aspirations for higher quality of life. I don't care where you are, you want your life to be better. Higher quality of life, whatever the quality of life is defined as. People, for example, living in India, they have a car, but they like a better car. They like a foreign car. Or they like a bigger house, or they like a house that is more laid out on, say, Western style. Okay? But something they recognize as quality of life, which they think they want to acquire. All over the world, human beings aspire for higher quality of life. Increasing demands for energy, materials, and minerals, because this higher quality of life requires more energy, more food. If you want a higher quality of life, you want safe and reliable, clean food, you really have to do a lot more agriculture, a lot more work, a lot more manufacturing. So increasing demand for energy, materials, and minerals. But these in turn have created some climate change, global pollution, and these are the global problems of climate change, toxic waste, waste disposal problems, and land use problems. People all of a sudden find the toxicity that you thought as confined is no longer confined. When a dam breaks, the toxicity spreads miles far away from where it broke. One impoundment failed in West Virginia, a coal impoundment failed in Virginia, and the liquids from that impoundment traveled over 3 states and polluted the Ohio River, which eventually runs into Mississippi, Missouri, or Missouri, Mississippi River. Flew over 3 states. Nobody imagined this small mine in West Virginia will do all that. That's the problem of impoundment failure. And today's mining requires that we build larger impoundments with higher capacity in very dangerous places. Well, advances in science and technology, that's another reason that there is a lot more demand as well as a driver for change. Enhanced education and research. This is always driving towards producing new knowledge, new products, new technologies come about, things become cheaper, you can afford, and these causes the dice starts all over again with increasing the quality of life. Okay, I think I'm looking now for a cell phone, and when I look at the prices, I can get one for 2,000 rupees, and I can get one for 1.6 lakhs. Okay, it just is a cell phone. And I was looking at what's the difference between 2,000 rupees and 1.6 lakhs. I want to communicate with somebody. I don't want all these fancy gadgets. I don't want what for and this thing. I just want to talk to somebody on a cell phone. 2,000 rupees will do. But somebody is willing to pay 1.6 lakhs for the same cell phone. That's the quality of life. The concern for development, because all these require development, has caused that sustainable development. They say we have to sustain this development because we just cannot grow like this. If we grow like this, it's like cancer. Eventually it will kill the body. Cancer is an unsustainable growth of cells in the body. That's what it is, right? Nothing. Cancer is a disease where the cells grow uncontrolled and eventually takes control of your life and we die. So we like to control cancer, eradicate cancer. We don't want to eradicate development, but we don't want it growing uncontrolled. So sustainable development concepts came along, and we have been living under sustainable development concept definition for nearly about 30 years. In 1987, we had this sustainable development concept elaborated, and in terms of the sustainable development concept, they said development is not growth. Okay? Development is really making more with less. There are a lot of things that you can do much better than what we are doing today, and making more with less is part of sustainable development concept. So we have concepts of recycling, reuse, reducing waste, trying to develop circular economy, trying to develop renewable energy and things of that type. But we have to be careful. Some of these technologies have their own problem. Collecting garbage by a truck from each place is good, and taking garbage to a common place is good. But if you realize that requires new trucks, drivers, more energy in driving this vehicle out, and then where you are impounding it, that's going to take land away from. So a life cycle analysis of cost benefit have got to be done. In turn, what I'm saying is, definition of development, concern for future generation, action plan various countries have developed, and all these have resulted in a number of new initiatives, as I've already said, new products, composites, computers, data centers, cell phones, energy transition technologies, satellites, defense industries. But you need infrastructure for all these. You need infrastructure. You have to build factories. You have to build roads. New mines have to be opened up to mine some of these new materials. So what this means is increased demand for minerals and energy. Existing minerals, it will grow. But it also has brought new minerals in, and some of these minerals have been identified as critical minerals. Okay? Critical minerals are basically essential for the country's strategic planning, economic planning. If there is a great risk to the supply chain of a mineral, then it becomes a critical mineral. I'm saying supply chain. Okay? What is the supply chain of a mineral? See, geologists and mining engineers may say the supply chain for a mineral is exploring for it, finding a deposit, mining it, and producing it. You have done the job of prospecting, exploration, and mining. You may even process it. Mineral processors may recognize it as processing. So you have processed and you have the mineral now. But you realize there are a lot of additional steps. At least mining engineers go up to refining, okay, smelting and refining. 2 other steps before you produce the metal, which is of more interest. But then if you take the system a little larger, then you have to identify what products are required and have a manufacturing industry for those products, because the products are the ultimate ones that you need. I'll give you one example. Why do we need critical minerals? Why do we need critical minerals? We need it for technologies. So you find critical mineral, you can mine it, you process it, and produce the critical mineral oxide. Processing will do it. smelting and refining it, or whatever process they do for critical minerals, you refine it, you produce a mineral, the metal. Then this metal has got to be made into a useful product. Let's look at magnets, which is what we need for your electrical vehicles, for your solar plants, for all your windmills. You need magnets, and huge numbers. But magnets don't come from just this critical metal. We have moved from critical mineral to critical metal, from critical metal to magnets. It is the magnets that drives the demand for critical minerals. So the supply chain includes this whole process. Okay? Mining, processing, refining, metal, manufacturing, products. The products have the market. Critical minerals. Let's take a quick look where we stand with respect to critical minerals. I want to give you one example, because when we say, what is the risk to the supply chain, okay? Mining. China produces 63% of all critical minerals. China. From this mining, processing, who produces the oxide? 85% of the oxide production capacity is with China. Who produces the rare earth metal? China has the capacity for 90% of this. Who produces the magnets? China produces 93% of the magnets. So you can see the critical chain for critical minerals is just not the mineral. You may produce a mineral, but to process it, to refine it, to make magnets, you have to send it elsewhere. So if you take a look, what is the United States getting involved in? Supporting opening up mines, supporting plants to refine the product, and even supporting plants to produce magnets. How this condition happened? China, for about the last 40 years, have been, other countries where the world were sleeping in the sense that China was underselling everybody, and other mines and supply sources and manufacturing sources were closing because you are getting all these things cheaply from China. Now that once they were all in the trap, China says, I won't give you any more. When a country says, I'm going to produce this critical mineral and ship it to China, China says, if you ship the product that we give you back to some countries, we won't process your product. Your supply chain is now critically tied to a nation which can be at war with you. And that's how it becomes so critical. I just explained the situation with critical minerals. So criticality can be defined in two ways. One is country specific. I think our introductory speaker talked about the government of India defining a critical mineral. I have been in the United States from 1966. Every year the US government publishes a list of critical minerals, and if you take a look at it, they are basically either essential for the country's needs, but 90% or 99% of the supply comes from outside. And that is why they consider it as critical. But even if the supply is come from a friendly country, this overall dependence on one country produces some criticality, because this country can use it as a valuable commodity with which they can threaten your industries. Okay? 1973 oil embargo and the consequences of that on world energy supply is one such case, where US was in very good relations with Middle East countries, but because of the Arab-Israeli conflict, overnight, we had an oil crisis in the US and energy crisis practically all over the world. A dominant supply position by one country can create also criticality, because for that country it becomes a very valuable commodity to use against other countries in the event of an emergency. So let's talk about a subset of critical minerals is the rare earth minerals, or elements of just rare earth, we call it. They have unique magnetic, catalytic, and electrochemical properties, so they are vitally needed for many technologies, high-tech consumer electronics, okay? Computers, smartphones, TVs, electric and hybrid vehicles that came around 1990, cars, okay? Electrical transmission technologies, transition technologies. You want to transfer sources of electricity, you want to move away from coal, from fossil fuels. We are looking at solar, we are looking at wind. They require these minerals. Defense equipment, satellites, sonar, the modern defense, you need these, absolutely essential. Even medicine and diagnostic tools used in medicine, they require these things. The word rare earth is not because they are very rare to find. Rare earth are one of the most commonly occurring elements. It occurs all over the place. But it occurs in concentrations and quantities in such a manner it's not easy to mine and more difficult to process. Okay, it is available, but it is difficult to mine because it is not available in concentrations that you are looking for. Average concentration is good, but there is no concentrated deposit that you can just go and mine. And processing, as I told you, is very difficult. Therefore, what is happening? People are looking at rare earth, recovering from our existing rare earth waste, mostly electronic waste, computer waste, cell phone waste. That's a big source. More importantly, coal mine wastes. They contain rare earth, the clays that occur in coal mines, fly ash waste, brines, water, they contain rare earth. So this has become a big industry. But as I told you, the global supply chain of rare earth elements is very, very fragile, because the entire chain is cornered by China. Within the last 2 years, US government has directly involved itself in rare earth mineral production. They have put their own money, $400 to $500 million, one mine in Wyoming, a coal mine. It's not a coal mine, the coal is being mined for rare earth, not for coal. And the US government has funded opening that mine by $400 million. Another mine in Nevada, Mountain Pass, I guess, they are probably paying about $400 million equity into that mine. They have put their money into that mine. So there are countries getting involved in a manner, a part of national planning, okay? So when national planning for minerals and mining industry, we have to address two things. Just not critical minerals. The demand for other minerals are gradually increasing. Take a look at India. While other countries like United States, European countries may decrease the use of coal, India is planning to increase the use of coal, not necessarily decrease it, because you have to use what you have. You can't just say, I can't use coal. We will use coal more intelligently, more cleanly, but we have to use coal. When I left the country in 1966, coal production was about 60 million tons or 70 million tons. And about 70% of the coal production was underground. 49 or 50 million tons of the coal was produced by underground methods. Today, India produces over 700 million tons, and 95% of the production is surface mines. Nobody is thinking of underground coal mining immediately. Eventually it may have to come, but not immediately. So what I'm saying is, mine planning has to include planning for existing minerals, demand for copper, demand for nickel, demand for cadmium, all these are demand for cobalt, all these will increase as demand for critical minerals which are new, that we never really required, but we require now. When, an electric car needs more, now you need more electricity. That means you need more copper. Therefore, demand for copper is going to increase maybe by 30%, 40% more than the normal increase because of the increased electricity use. Same thing for nickel. Same for cadmium. Therefore, in national planning, there is a normal population growth in economics which requires increase in normal growth of minerals, and then the demand for new minerals and new technologies, okay? So, countries will plan towards exploration program for supply chain risk mitigation for critical minerals. So when you look at critical minerals, you have to develop exploration program for supply chain mitigation. Clearly, it cannot be done in isolation to other aspects of national planning, particularly the planning for sustainable development of the overall economy and increased health and happiness of the citizens, okay? So in my view, confining to my area of interest, which is academics, manpower development becomes important. Education and research become important for earth scientists and engineers, and their educational background needs to be broadened. Not just traditional exploration and mining, but also appreciation of these aspects of criticality. See, Viksit Bharat 2047 is the government of India's plan for transforming India to a 30 million economy from $30 trillion economy, $30 trillion economy, from the current 4 trillion economy in the next 20 years, from 2025 to 2047. While I'm not familiar with all mineral planning, just reading the papers, I know that with regard to critical minerals, they have started a lot of emphasis. One of those is to find deposits, enhanced exploration program. Another one is centers of excellence of critical minerals, one of which is Indian School of Mines, my alma mater. I think they have formed 4 centers of excellence. I asked myself, that addresses the subject of mining, finding critical minerals, mining critical minerals, and say even processing the critical minerals. What about the downstream processes of refining and manufacturing? Okay. Often I have wondered, can it be done? Not just India, any country that's looking for critical minerals, can it be done? Will we achieve our goals? Of course, these are the kind of things that everybody has to worry about. When we start something new, we should in the back of our mind always know that there will be doubts. I remember 1947, I was only a 8 or 9-year-old kid. We just got independence, didn't know anything about the country. If somebody told me in 2027 we will be the number 3 economy in the world, it will be very difficult for me to have believed if I had any sense. How did we do it? How did we achieve it? We came from a colonial rule We committed ourselves to democracy. How did we do it? How did we achieve it? There are very, very strong strengths of India today, which we didn't have at that time. But at that time, we had leaders who foresaw, they planned every 5 years, they had certain goals that they wanted to achieve. They went about achieving those goals, failing some cases, but still achieving them, developed a national pride, and in 2025, they became the world's 4th largest economy. We bet China, we bet Japan. And it's only a couple of years that we are going to go ahead of Germany to become the world's 3rd largest economy, only about $0.7 trillion. So the question is, planning prudently and working diligently to enforce the plan and achieve the plan. Herein lies that answer. As we have done it before, we will be able to do it again. But there are problems we have to understand. 2 things are very strong in India today. Think about the young people. India is blessed. China, Russia, United States, Japan, they are craving for babies. It was only 20 years ago, I guess, China said one-child policy. Today they are encouraging women to have more children. Today India is blessed with a vibrant, educated, and extremely competent young people. We have a very consuming economy. We have people who will consume a lot of stuff. Whatever you produce, there is market for it. Okay? A consuming economy is very important. You may produce a lot of stuff. If the economy cannot consume, what are you going to do? You have to export it. And if other exporting countries have more of that, then you can't produce those stuff. That's one of the problems. But we have a consuming economy. We also have a good manufacturing base. So if we find the raw materials, we have youth, consuming economy, manufacturing base. If we can build those 2, India will not only achieve Viksit Bharat, goals of Viksit Bharat 2047, it may achieve it even earlier than that. With regard to critical minerals, I wish a lot of good luck to Indian geologists, mining engineers, mineral processing technologists, and everybody to ensure that they recognize the pitfalls of just stopping short of strategic planning for minimizing the risk to the supply chain. The risk is very, very high because unless we completely identify all the risks along the chain and have answers for all those risks, we may not achieve the goal of eliminating supply chain problems. With that note of caution, I want to thank the audience who are here and the audience that is online. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for this enlightening talk. We have few questions. One is from Madam Babita.
I'll be here.
The question is, in light of the current geopolitical and ESG landscape, how should we interpret Bharat's future critical minerals strategy, particularly considering its recent MOUs and agreements with Australia and Argentina, EOE, etc. Do these developments suggest that Bharat is less geologically prospective?
Well, I have just identified that the strategic risk, the great risk to the supply chain comes from a number of sources in the critical minerals chain. The availability chain doesn't stop till you produce the end product for which the country needs. So if we find what is the end product you need and plan for it. So if our agreement with other countries is strong and those countries have the capability to supply where our weakness can be there, they can strengthen your weakness, then we have addressed it. So I personally don't know or familiar with what these agreements entail. On the other hand, that is the way to go because it is too difficult at this point in time to develop every link in the supply chain or strengthen it.
There is another question from Mr. Sharma that he has requested that this talk you can deliver in US. One Mr. Sharma has requested to deliver this talk in US.
In US. Well, I have delivered a similar talk in US and this is a talk that I'm not afraid to deliver anywhere. I'm not afraid to deliver anywhere. In the US, my interest in sustainable development, while it was not called sustainable development, was land use planning for mined lands. I started on this in 1973 with a project from EPA, not from any mining company or mining agency. The project was supported by Environmental Protection Agency, probably the first mining project, because I felt that mining industry may be called an industry, but mining as a function is land use function. And it's a temporary use of land. Therefore, if you believe in what you say, you are not afraid to present it anywhere. So whoever asks the question, they should believe in what they say. I believed in what I said, okay?
There is another question from Dr. Wadhwa. That it's a very informative talk. Huge investment is needed to explore and mine the needed CMs. How to meet such challenges in current unclear political environment and environmental clearances related issues?
Well, my good friend, Sudesh Bhadwan, I think what I want to tell him is, this is a problem. This is particularly when government agencies are involved and what one agency would require and what the other agency would permit, and the two agencies get into conflict. So really, as I was talking to somebody yesterday, health and safety suffers when, say for example, Ministry of Coal or Ministry of Mines supersedes Ministry of Labor, which protects labor health and safety laws, whereas the Ministry of Mines and Fuels may give more importance to production and productivity. Now, as far as I'm concerned, no production is good unless it is safe production. For me, production means safe production, because safety is, as far as I'm concerned, number one priority or the essential characteristic of a mine. Human manpower, human life has no value to be placed on it. It is of utmost value. And therefore, if a miner gets hurt in a mine, production stops, cost increases. Indirect costs are about 10 times the direct cost. And therefore, I would like to tell that we have to develop a system where the agencies work together, keeping in mind the role of the government. The government has defined, say, as I told you, the strategic planning for government is people's welfare. Not just protection of the environment, but people's welfare. And therefore, protection of the environment takes a second interest in that. They are one of those contributing things. And therefore, you have to compromise. But if they guard their territory very solidly, then you have problems. When bureaucrats fight, nobody wins. Everything gets delayed. Okay?
There is one more question from Professor B.K. Prusti. Lithium is one of the critical minerals, but its environmental impact, particularly that of battery for EV, is not properly evaluated. What is your opinion?
B.K. Prusti, the name sounds familiar. He's from IIT
He
Kharagpur.
was there, I understand he has joined ISM, I do not know if
I don't. Okay, he's from IIT Kharagpur, I
Yeah,
guess.
he was with IIT Kharagpur, yes. you are
Okay,
correct.
dear Prusti, wonderful. I just wanted to point out, with regard to that question.
He is right.
Yeah, with
He's still there. I am from IIT KGP.
no, I just wanted to point out that lithium is the 30th most abundant mineral or element in Earth's crust. Do you know that? 30th most. So common. Lithium is the 30th most abundant mineral on Earth's crust. Okay? And it is a critical mineral, okay? Or rare earth element. And it is recovered mostly from waste waters, okay? It can be recovered. In fact, one chemical engineer told me, "Ye kya bhai, rare earth ka problem tha, water cleaning problem hai." So some people view the rare earth problem as cleaning up waters. Now, to answer Mr. Prusti's question, you have to go through the entire spectrum, and environmental impact is quite severe of lithium. Lithium environmental impact is quite severe, and one has to properly evaluate it, okay? I don't know what kind of evaluation will be done. Generally you find that new technology, there may be some misses, but certainly Prusti has raised the right question. Unless it is fully evaluated, other problems will develop along the line. But lithium has been used for a long time, and therefore the problems that may be easily solvable might have been solved. If there are difficult problems to solve, I'm certain that other countries will be working at it. US EPA will be on top of that, and therefore, instead of India going into it, I suggest do a thorough literature search and see what is available outside before we venture into it.
Okay, sir, we'll take the last question. That is from Mr. Saroj Patnaik. Can India meet its critical mineral requirements in future, given the present status of exploration and mining in the industry, in the country? What is the alternate strategy for the country?
At this time, I feel I'm glad I'm not an Indian. Worried about this kind of problems. The truth of the matter is, how do I know? Do I have a crystal ball whether the critical mineral exploration objectives and goals of the government of India will be met? I have no idea. I cannot tell you. On the other hand, I just told you, they occur very widely. They occur in a lot of polluted waters or brine waters. They occur all over the place in mineral waste, coal mine waste. They occur in clays. But finding a mineral a deposit that is economically mineable is difficult. But if it is a national priority, then economics will take a back seat. Even then, do we have the processing capacity? If you have the processing capacity, or you have agreed on processing capacity from some other country which is reliable, you are okay. I don't know what countries you have agreement with. So the idea this question poses, in my own mind at this present time, when it is looking for deposits, along with deposits you have to develop processing capacity, refining capacity, and then manufacturing capacity. But fortunately, There are many countries that are getting started on this. There are about 40 countries in the world that are opening up magnet production in their own countries. United States has about 4 or 5 plants. In Europe, there are starting plants. South America is opening up magnet generating plants because they don't want to be dependent upon China for magnets. Because if magnets are not available, then their whole electrical vehicle development program and clean energy program is affected. And therefore, what I am saying is, whatever the ultimate objective of the Indian government in terms of this critical mineral development, which is probably clean energy, it cannot be achieved unless you have that oxide, the element, you have the mineral, you have the oxide from the mineral, then you have the element, and then you have the manufacturing of that element into products. So, to answer that question, that is probably the issue.
Okay, so with this, the talk comes to an end, and we profusely thank Professor Ramani for this wonderful, enlightened talk. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Praharaj. Thank you, Professor Ramani. Can I ask you to please take your seat? May I request our President, G.S. Kotia, to give a concluding remark on the talk of Professor Ramani and
Good evening to all. Well, as we all know, almost 2 months back, in a council meeting, we decided we should go for a critical mineral DLC, that is a distinguished lecture program. I myself suggested, I have a friend of great importance, Mr. Ramani, Raja Ramani, and he has achieved international fame. He was my batchmate in 1962. We graduated together from Indian School of Mines, and I myself remained a couple of years in coal mines, but then I find the coal mines are getting very much congested. So I switched on to metalliferous, and I spent my time in Steel Authority and NMDC, etc. But Professor Ramani, he has achieved a hall of fame. It is a rare thing. There are trust, a lot of industrialists, etc. in foreign countries, they contribute a lot of funds for research and development, etc. And many boys and girls are pursuing studies through him. So it is a big service Professor Ramani is doing to the society. So since he was my batchmate, he also visited Bhubaneswar and Puri, Konark, etc. another 10 years back. I kept him in Bhubaneswar club, I am a club member, and he enjoyed and went. So when I talked in the night that day after the decision, I just dialed him. He told it is a privilege for me to visit Bhubaneswar and Puri, particularly Lord Jagannath Darshan. I tried hard for this Jagannath Darshan, but we failed because that the ornaments, etc., are being shifted to that, Bhandargarh. That is on 23rd and 24th. So, although I suggested that I being a local man and settled in Bhubaneswar for last 25 years, so what I do normally, I book a hotel whenever my sons from London or from Delhi come and stay there, And as and when the Panda tells that next morning at 5 o'clock, please come, or next day, so that is only possible. Otherwise, in Jagannath, Darshan, if he calls you, you can only see, you can only visit him. So he has I requested him that let him plan another occasion. So this is about that, and the critical minerals, as we all know, he has made a wonderful presentation in such a short notice. Very short notice has been given. Otherwise, he could have made a very structured presentation also. But whatever he has covered, obviously that has given a great insight to us. We also organized a program processing of various minerals in the coming 2-3 decades, etc. in December of 2024. There also we have talked about the critical minerals, because after this, independence, we have achieved almost 80 years of independence, and during this period, first phase, Jawaharlal Nehru decided that we should go for nationalization, means sab sarkari karan. So industrial revolution came, and then because sarkari money will be spent particularly in mines, minerals, coal, and infrastructures, railways, etc. So it shoot up like anything. Then came in 1990-91 that privatization. Mr. Narasimha Rao was so they found that the public sectors are in great loss and all these things, the country will be ruined by loss, so it is better we switch on to privatization. So privatization also picked up very well, very well. And what we have now achieved to become the third economy in the world, $500 billion, that is due to privatization. We have come up very well. But it is the time now to think of alternate energy source, clean energy source, which he has covered. That is about the critical minerals. So particularly there are some questions with regard to what is the national planning about these critical minerals. So our Ministry of Mines, that Shastri Bhavan, they have already started working on critical minerals from last year. And some MOU, Oil India, Hindustan Copper, they have MOU for exploration of critical minerals. And as Mr. Panigrahi in the introduction speech, he has also covered a subset of minerals considered crucial for manufacturing and technological needs of the companies, industries, nation, even the world. That is the critical mineral. For example, rare earth elements are required for production of permanent magnets and wind turbines, while electricity networks and vast amount of copper and aluminum. The definition of whether a mineral is considered critical or not is somewhat flexible, since the classification depends on not only the context of shareholders' point of view, but also the subject also needs change over time because of current techno-socio-economic paradigm. So in recent years, there are different sets, some 20 sets of these critical minerals, now some 50 sets of critical minerals like that. All these thinkings are going on in government sectors. So we have also, with all these things, I'll just touch a little. Some minerals are critical because they are present in minimum concentration as byproducts, or so-called major minerals, that is minerals that are present in higher concentration in the mineral deposit. For example, ruthenium, rhodium, palladiums are byproducts of platinum. Other minerals are critical due to market concentration in the downward processing stages. For instance, over 40% of the global smelting and refining capacity of copper and lithium, rare earth, cobalt is concentrated in China. So naturally there will be a dictation capacity. So these problems will come. So therefore, in all fitness, the government had started working. This subject is quite, not very clear up till now to government or to the industries, etc. So therefore, there should be number of seminar and conference, etc. on this subject all over the country. Then only by good journey, a lot of ideas and thoughts, etc. Will come up. So last but not the least, for this program, I have circulated to my friends in ISM also, and entire ISM. Then my friends in steel authorities, about 300 people from steel authority, in which I spent my whole life, are settled here. They have retired either from Bhilai, Bokaro, or Durgapur, or Alkala, Delhi, etc. So we have given a wide publicity, but I wish in this online mode, number of people have attended. Thanks to Professor Ramani as well as our SGAT council members, SGAT members present in SGAT auditorium, and those attending from professional bodies like Sterilites, MGMI, IEI, ISM, etc. Last but not the least, I thank our both VP, Sujit Babu and Sri A.B. Panigrai, Sri Trilochan Mahanto, our General Secretary, both are Joint Secretary, Mr. Hota and Mr. Das, and Sri Tapos Rath and Sri Praharaj, and many others who have contributed behind the scene to make the program grand success. Thank you all very much. Jai Hind.
Thank you, sir, for your concluding remark. Sir, you are not finished. You have to. So I will request you once again to present a memento to our speaker, Sri Raja Bhindani. Please come to me. Okay, sir.
He loves Bhubaneswar as well as Odisha. Not only for Lord Jagannath Darshan, but also to see the people at large.
Yes, sir. It's a wonderful place to come and have good time and great friends. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. May I request our Joint Secretary Jain Das to please offer a vote of thanks.
I feel it highly privileged and honored to propose a vote of thanks to a person like Professor Raja Ramani. I must say that a giant in the industry. I remember that Sir Isaac Newton, he said, if I have seen further, it is by standing on the shoulders of giants. Today we have seen that what we mean by the giants and the kind of knowledge and kind of the information he is having and he shared with us within a short time, it is extraordinary. Thank you very much, sir. We all have learned many things from you, and I understand this is a kind of mentoring of highest order. Thank you very much, sir, for taking pain to come here. And I, on behalf of the entire members of SGAT, give you a heartfelt thanks, and we wish you come again and enlighten us. I also thank to all our members, participants who joined. It has crossed today 100, and almost 50 people joined in Zoom, and more than 34 they joined in the YouTube, and of course the people present here in the audience. So it has been a wonderful time, and I thank one and all, mostly the online participant and the participant who asked queries and created this discussion deliberation very lively. So thank you once again to one and all. Good night. Thank you, sir.
With this, the meeting comes to an end.